Welcome everybody. My name is Louie Lujan. I'm the Government Affairs Director with the Greater Downey Association of Realtors. I'm here today in place of Ruben, our president, who couldn't make it. I do have a couple of important updates, however, that I'd like to share with everybody as we get through this pandemic and as we're into election season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of updates, and then at the end I'm going to remind everybody about the propositions that we have on our upcoming ballot. I'll also do a screen share when we talk about some of the local and regional updates. First of all, I just wanted to let you know that I literally just now left a Zoom meeting prior to this one that was an all GAD meeting, an all Government Affairs Directors meeting. And every once in a while, the Government Affairs Directors get together and talk about issues that are important and items that are pressing or pending. And one of the things I did want to share is that there has been some discussion about the existing moratorium on evictions on the national level. And if you recall, not too long ago, the Trump administration was pressured and they went along with it to enact a moratorium on evictions across the country. And what NAR is saying right now is that it's very likely that this moratorium is going to get extended, even if a new administration comes in. So for example, let's say Biden wins the election, that moratorium on evictions will most likely get extended, possibly at least another year. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that, because obviously it's important to our industry, but number two, we're hearing stories all across the country about property owners that are being affected by this moratorium. There was one story in particular that was being talked about where the property owners themselves had to, because of the eviction moratorium, allow essentially the tenants to squat. And the owners had to go and live in a hotel, and that's where they're currently at. So NAR is trying right now to get together with the administration and even with Biden's campaign, in case he wins, to talk about some of the negative consequences that we're seeing because of the moratorium itself. So I'll keep everybody posted on that. We do have a GAD report that's posted on our website. I encourage everyone to go there and take a look as well, as I will make sure to post updates on the actual eviction moratorium. Another thing that came up in the meeting that I'll share is that I get a lot of questions as to whether or not NAR is going to get involved in the presidential race, meaning are they going to pick a side? And the answer is no. NAR rarely, if ever, gets involved with a particular candidate or campaign. They would rather allow the voters to choose as they wish, and then once the new president is either re-elected or elected, NAR will then go ahead and work with that administration to get some of our most important issues addressed. So I wanted to just make sure everybody was aware of that in case the question is in the back of your mind. NAR does not get involved, at least in that respect, with picking a candidate. Okay, I wanted to share a couple of things that are on our GAD report. So let me do a screen share here and bring everybody to the actual GAD report. The one you're going to see up front is not the GAD report, so let me go on it. Here we go. All right, so I'm assuming everybody can see this right now. One of the things I want to share real quickly is that on the national level, as you can see on the screen there, we do have movement from the federal level. On October 8th, the SBA and the Treasury Department announced the release of the new PPP forgiveness application. And what it comes down to is real simple. If you had a PPP loan and the amount was $50,000 or less, it's going to be essentially an automatic forgiveness. So if you know someone that has a PPP loan, or perhaps you do, and it's under $50,000, you just need to fill out one simple online form and it'll be forgiven. Next thing I want to share is more related to the state level. And currently, 95% of the bills that CAR has sponsored have been stalled due to the pandemic itself. Now, I bring this up only because in a typical year, the amount of bills that CAR has passed and that are moving through the legislature is 95%. So to have 95% stalled is a complete 180. And I want to give everybody a real visual of just how impactful that is. You go from 95% of your bills moving through the system one year, and then fast forward to 2020, which has been a weird year in and of itself, where you have 95% actually stalled. So what that means for 2021 is we're going to have an extremely compact and busy year. Of course, depending on how the pandemic plays itself out, whether or not we have a vaccine, and if there's a new administration, all of those play into it. But 2021 is going to look like a very, very busy and compact legislative year. The next thing is CAR has provided their votes or their rulings, if you will, on several propositions. And I wanted to share this with everybody in case you're wondering, how should I vote on some of these propositions? Well, CAR found that Proposition 14, 16, 17, 18, 22, and 23 are not relevant to real estate directly. So they didn't take a position on it. Now, I'll show you in a bit what each of those propositions are, but at least you have it there in writing. They also found that Prop 15 and 19 should be supported. So they're agreeing to support those two initiatives. The last one is Prop 21, which they are remaining neutral on. There's a little nuance with Prop 15. I'll get to that in a second, but essentially it's simplified there for you. And finally, on the regional level, one of the things I did want to share is that I do have a detailed breakdown of all of the propositions that you will be seeing on your ballot if you haven't seen them already, and I'll show you in a sec, but I do have them available if anybody wants a lot more detail other than what I'm going to show in the abbreviated version, just let me know. And also, there's a great resource that you can use to track your ballot, find out where to vote, anything related to the election in and of itself and your ballot. Go to lavote.net. It's at the bottom of the screen there, lavote.net. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what's going on the federal level with regard to the moratorium and the most likely extension of it. We talked a little bit about the ill effects of the eviction moratorium, gave you some updates on what's going on with our GAD report on the federal level, the state level with our propositions, as well as where to find your information on lavote.net. The next thing I want to do, as I kind of quickly go through this information, there's tons of it, is I want to share with you, and another screen share here, on the actual initiatives themselves. I am not going to go into painful detail on this because I've been sharing this at different offices, although I do want to go through a little bit of them. There's going to be 12 propositions on your ballot, numbered 14 through 25. That in and of itself is a bit confusing. Just keep in mind, 12 initiatives numbered 14 through 25, 3 of them have a direct effect on our industry. Those 3 are as follows. Prop 15, which is otherwise known as the split roll proposition, splitting the commercial property tax from the residential property tax, creating a new tax roll for commercial properties while leaving residential property taxes under the same Prop 13 protections. The next is Prop 19, and that's otherwise known as tax portability. It allows people that want to either pass on a property to a grandchild, or on the flip side of it, someone that wants to inherit a property or will be inheriting a property. It allows that process to go forward with limited tax implications. Now, there's a website, yeson19.vote, and that's the one that if you really want to find out why CAR is supporting it, why police and fire are supporting it, and why a whole wide range of groups across the state are supporting it, I highly recommend you go there. Yeson19.vote. Obviously, we are supporting Prop 19 and hoping you all vote yes on it. The last proposition that directly affects our industry is Prop 21. And Prop 21 is another rent control initiative. We literally this morning had a candidates forum in which we invited the mayor to say a little bit about her stances on some of the issues that are directly related to real estate. This item came up, Prop 21. She indicated that the California League of Cities are not supporting it, nor is she, nor are many cities across the state. We already have Assembly Bill 1482 in place. We don't feel there's another, we do not feel there's a need for another proposition basically trying to implement what already exists, and that's rent control. Okay, the rest of the propositions that I'll show you, we have Prop 14, it's a stem cell research initiative. I'm not going to go into detail on the remaining, but I'll leave this up for a second. Prop 16, this is the affirmative action initiative. This would end the ban on affirmative action. So a yes vote will end the ban that was implemented in 1996. Prop 17 restores voting rights for people that are on parole. Basically, it allows people that are convicted of a crime, specifically felonies, an easier way to register and vote. Prop 18 reduces the voter age from 18 to 17 if you're going to turn 18 by the time of the next election. Prop 20, this is the initiative that would require the collection of DNA from anyone that commits even a misdemeanor crime. Currently, you can only collect, the authorities can only connect DNA with a swab if you have been charged with and or convicted of a felony. Well, this would reduce it to things like petty theft, shoplifting, check forging, things like that. You would be required to give your DNA sample. Prop 22, this is Uber and Lyft versus the state. This is Uber and Lyft saying, we don't necessarily want the state to tell us how to classify our employees. We'd rather have them as 1099 employees. The state says we can't. We're going to sponsor an initiative and let the people decide. This is Uber and Lyft versus the state. Prop 23, dialysis clinic requirements initiative. This one simply requires dialysis clinics to implement certain policies that would allow for more transparency and patient rights. It's a pretty straightforward one. Prop 24, this is the Consumer Personal Information Law Act, if you will. And what this one does is it, in its simplest form, it prohibits the collection of data from your mobile devices, cell phones and tablets, but it allows it on desktops and laptops. Again, that's a very simplified version, but it has a lot to do with data collection and privacy. Prop 25 replaces the current bail system. If you or anyone you know have ever been arrested and you've needed to post bail, you have to bring cash to a bail bondsman. They then will give you your get out of jail card. Well, that replaces this initiative replaces that system with a system based on risk assessments. Simply put, if you've never had a criminal conviction or you've never been arrested, you're not considered a flight risk, you will be allowed out of jail, out of the holding cell on your own recognizance. Of course, unless it's a violent crime or something serious and it's a felony. Okay, finally, lavote.net. Here's the information I spoke about a few minutes ago. lavote.net has tons of information for you to go and look, how to track your ballot, find out where a mobile vote center is, find a drop box, how to register. Everything's in there on a one-stop shop type of situation, lavote.net. I highly encourage you to share that website, by the way. People that, for various reasons, have questions up until the very last minute about where do I vote, how do I vote, what do I vote for? That's what we're trying to clarify and give you more information on, is that. Okay, the last thing I do want to share with everybody are some resources that we talked about, we've been talking about, with regard to COVID-19. So I'm going to do another screen share here and bring up the, I get out of this thing. Let me stop the share and then go back in there. Give me a second. And as I'm pulling this up here, I want to let everybody know that we have been getting a lot of questions with regard to where are some of the forms that I need to fill out during the pandemic and where are the resources that CAR is providing for us in our industry. And I want to take you through a quick little tour here. I want to start by saying on the CAR website, there literally is there are tons of information, tons of forms, COVID legal documents. And I wanted to focus on the legal documents because the last thing you want is a complaint filed against you or having to respond to some type of inquiry because you didn't fill out the right form, or because you didn't provide the right information to a tenant, or because you forgot that you had to include a certain type of document in an agreement, whatever it may be. Well, CAR on their website has a specific section. You probably already know this, but I want to really highlight it because these are getting updated as the pandemic unfolds and as new requirements are put into place and new laws are signed by the governor and even on the local level. So, first thing here, I'll read a little bit. The recent events surrounding the spread of COVID-19 strain of the coronavirus has led to many questions about the continued enforceability of real estate contracts. And that's kind of what I was getting at, is that when you have a legal contract and you're involved in some type of transaction, you want to make sure that you have all the information in front of you at your disposal. There are webinars here that you can actually watch. I'm not going to share or click on them now, but I highly recommend that you do take some time to go through every single link here and make sure that you are up to date. We have some step-by-step instructions for filing a claim, which are right here. Simply click on that. Guidance for certification and other post-application information. And if you notice, there's a revised date by each of them. One of the mistakes you really want to avoid is having an old form, having a form that was revised in September 14th, for example, and you're using the form from March, or you're using the form from June. I mean, it could be a very big difference. So you want to be up to compliance and make sure you have all of this information. There's also some PPP guides that I found interesting. We were just talking about the loan forgiveness with and without employees. You click on the one that applies best. And now that the feds have released their guidelines on how to apply for the forgiveness, we have a step-by-step process on how to actually do it. And here's some guides and other materials that I wanted to let you know exist as well. Now, one of the things I did want to, right here, the September 2020 quick summary. Now, if I click on that, you'll notice, obviously, this is a very valuable document. This document will take you through all of the forms that you need to have. So I would highly recommend that you bookmark this particular URL. Again, we have it available, let us know, and we can send it to you. But this URL will have all of the form codes, the form name, and whether or not it replaces an existing document, a brief description, and if it's okay to use the prior revision. That's the key part I was telling you a minute ago. Some of them, well, as you can see, most of them here, it's not okay because it'll say new, and so forth. But you want to make sure that you're really up to date on this, because you can get into some legal challenges if you're not. Let me just kind of breeze through and scroll through these. This one came up earlier, the unpaid rent calculation. Tenant declaration of COVID-19 related financial distress. That's the one where a tenant has to actually fill out. Notice to pay COVID transition period rent or quit. That's an important one. They're all important, but you just want to make sure that you're up to date, because as you can see, there are tons of forms. And the coronavirus has made it such that we almost have to either have some legal counsel handy, be able to pick up the phone and inquire, or you have to become your own expert. Either way, you want to make sure that you're up to date on all these forms. Let me go back here for a second. I wanted to also show you something here. I get a lot of questions about office trainings, and here's a document here that was revised in July. I would think that everybody would be up to date by now on the office training, what to do, preventing the spread. But again, this document does get updated every once in a while as well. It talks about those with pre-existing conditions. I bring this form up only because I know people to have printed it out and leave it somewhere on the wall, or allow for people to download it themselves. Okay. So as we go through, there are some legal Q&As you can click on down there. quick guides that are very helpful. The bottom line, though, is I really wanted to take some time to take you through CAR's COVID legal document page. It is, in my opinion, of all the COVID-related pages on the CAR website, the most relevant in the sense that these are the actual documents. The rest of the COVID pages on the CAR website are obviously very important, but this one gets to the heart of the situation when it comes to which documents do I need and whether or not they're the most recent ones. So I highly, highly recommend you do this, because as you recall, when I first started the session here, it looks like we're going to be dealing with the coronavirus pandemic for quite some time. In the most recent business meeting I attended, most people in the industry and even in the government circles are talking about another year, at least at the minimum into our next summer. So we are not, in my opinion, ever going to go back to the way things were. We're adjusting to a new normal, and that new normal is continually evolving. And what we see here is part of it: new forms, documents, and requirements. With that said, I just want to leave you with this information here. Please take a minute if you would like to get my contact information. If you do have any questions, concerns, comments, you need to know a specific URL, whatever it may be, drop me an email, give me a call, send me a text message, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions you have. So with that said, I'm going to stop my screen share. I will wait a few seconds to see if there are any questions, and if not, we will take it from there. We did have a couple people join as time went on, so I want to make sure that I'm giving everybody an opportunity to review the info, and if there are questions, to, of course, let me know. Okay. All right. Well, with that said, I don't see any questions coming through. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to hear about the latest updates and information going on in the real estate industry as we get through this pandemic. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you next time.